Thanks, Puddin'. FitLabPGH back with another movement tip lifestyle hack podcast. We are a Pittsburgh area podcast. We believe movement is a lifestyle, not just an activity. We wanted to talk a little bit about making sure you keep your extremities warm when you're out moving. So the first extremity that you don't really think about it as an extremity is your head. So when you talk about your head, if you're down to about 45 degrees, you can probably get by with synthetics, maybe even a little bit colder depending on how your temperatures are. If you're Puddin' or Maggie, you can get down probably to 0. But this is a synthetic hat from Sweatvac. I like it because it fits really tight as a scully. It'll fit underneath a bicycle helmet. It'll wick sweat and it breaks the wind a little bit, or you don't get the wind on your head. And if you've got hair like I've got, your head gets cold. When it gets a little bit colder, when I start to sweat more and it's cold out, I found that synthetic doesn't work for me. I'm a big fan of wool. There's a variety of companies out there. This is a Smartwool hat. This is a really good hat for me down to about 30 degrees. If it's windy, maybe 35 degrees. And what I found with wool versus synthetic, no knock on any brand, is the wool, when I sweat and it gets wet, it doesn't feel clammy. And one of the things I don't like is feeling clammy. So wool feels better on my skin at cooler temperatures. So I may use that from Smartwool. Voormi makes a relatively thin hat that works really well down to about 30 degrees. And what I like about this hat is it works very well underneath a bicycle helmet too, because like the Sweatvac hat down to about 45 degrees or so, very good about wicking sweat, very good about fitting under the helmet. And then if it's just one of those days where it's like 25 degrees or colder, yes, it does get colder than that in Pittsburgh. This is also from Voormi. This is a thicker hat. Again, it's wool, and it will keep me warm because it's very closely woven. What it will do is it will break the wind, or I won't feel the wind on my ears. So my ears are big enough, they're red enough, I don't want to get frostbite on them. The other thing I've learned, this is taking the positive out, or what you can do is during COVID, is I actually like wearing neck gaiters. Down to about 40 degrees, I wear a neck gaiter. This is one that I got when I ordered a pair of Carson's shoes. It's a synthetic material. I didn't realize this until the middle of May when I was wearing it as a face protector in case I saw somebody. 2020, the year of the coronavirus. So Carson Footwear, you were way ahead of the game when you sent this out sometime in February or March. This is really good down to about 30, 35 degrees. It helps keep my neck warm. And what I found, if I keep my head and my neck warm, my neck either with a hood or one of these, protects my neck. Somebody comes along who kind of looks a little sketchy, or I feel a little sketchy, pull it up as a face mask. But it gets a little colder. This actually is from Smartwool. You can get a neck gaiter that's in wool. These are pretty much one use. Throw them in the wash and try it. You might like it. When the pollen's out, you can pull it up and breathe through it. Next thing when we talk about extremities is our hands. I'm a full finger glove person. When we get into the spring, I'll talk about bike gloves and thin gloves. But this is for biking and running when it's cold, say 50 degrees and cooler. When it's 50 to 45, I like a pair of fabric gloves. These happen to be from Defeat. They're wool. I think you're catching a theme. I like wool when it gets cooler. They have a little bit of grip on the palm. They don't have something for your smartphone, which is a good thing from get away from the smartphone and just enjoy the outdoors. Gets a little bit colder out. Maybe I use these as a liner, or maybe I don't. These are from Aerotech. Aerotech is a local company based in Coraopolis. These from about 45 degrees down to 35 degrees work really well. 35 degrees, maybe to 25 degrees with the Defeat liners or other wool liners work good. And it actually gets colder than that. And remember, depending on who you are, these temperatures may be a little bit off for you. But when it gets really cold, this is from a company called 45 North. Their stuff, I will warn you, number one, is very, very expensive. So look for sales. But number two, it is super durable and super warm. So these are their warmest gloves that they have. We'll have a link. And pretty much if you get below 25 degrees, your hands will stay warm. The nice thing about these is if you're out on the bike and maybe riding on the road or gravel bike and you know there's a little bit of wind, these will actually fit in and there's enough room. I'm an extra large in gloves. I can put these on with a pair of liner gloves and there's still enough room for my hands to move around. So if your hands are cold, you're going to be miserable. So you probably want to have a selection of gloves. Final thing we want to talk about is socks. Warmer than 50 degrees or so. Synthetic socks. These happen to be from Defeat. They're a mountain bike sock, but any sort of synthetic sock is nice. Avoid cotton at all costs because you'll get blisters. As it gets a little bit colder, say 50 degrees down to 30, 35 degrees, I like a slightly thin wool sock. These happen to be from Cloudline. Great socks. Nice thing about wool is when your feet get wet, not if, but when in the fall, winter, and spring, still maintain warm toes. And then when it gets even colder, I want a thicker sock. These happen to be from Darn Tough. So the take-home message is, no matter what it is, whether it's your head, whether it's your neck, whether it's your hands, whether it's your feet, you need a variety of tools to help keep you warm so that you can opt outside, so that you can move more. And at the end of the day, whether you walk, whether you run, whether you hike, cross-country, ski, or bike, our goal at FitLab Pittsburgh is for you to look at 2021 as being a year of movement as a lifestyle, not something you do after everything else you do.